It had been a long time since I broke up with the Harrison Corporation's heiress, and she had long since found someone new. She sabotaged my opportunities, snatching a role I had spent 6 months preparing for just to pave the way for her new boyfriend. On the night I won the Best Actor award, the host asked me, "That theme song you sang at the start of your career, Prayer, is it true you named it after someone you loved?" Down in the audience, Chloe's head snapped up, her face a mask of disbelief. Very few people knew that the Harrison heiress's name was Chloe. Only now did she realize that I had once loved her with everything I had, hiding her name in the title of a song. But now I just shook my head and smiled, denying it all. That's all in the past now. On the way to the film festival, my agent, Sarah, informed me with a grim expression. "Our Asian brand ambassadorship with Dior has been terminated. They've given it to Leo Vance instead." I calmly lowered my gaze and said, "You get used to it." She lit a cigarette, unable to suppress her anxiety. "How many opportunities has he hijacked this year? First, the lead in director Lee's new film, then the top-tier commercial and TV deals, and now your most important blue blood luxury ambassadorship, all snatched by Leo Vance. You spent 6 months preparing for that role in director Lee's movie, cleared your schedule for a whole year, gained 20 pounds and then lost it all, and they replaced you after filming had already begun. The endorsements and other deals didn't matter as much, but I could never get over losing that film role." I gently took the cigarette from Sarah's fingers, my eyes stinging as I quietly reminded her, "Sarah, there's nothing we can do, nothing at all, because the person backing Leo Vance is Chloe, the Harrison Corporation heiress, known in the industry as the Princess, and the Harrisons hold a controlling stake in most of the country's entertainment industry. Our agency is no exception. Leo Vance is the only boyfriend Chloe has ever publicly acknowledged, and though he's only been in the business for a year, he's already starred in a major director's film and is now nominated alongside me for Best Actor. When Chloe decides to back someone, she gives them the very best of everything. I just happen to be in her way." Sarah glanced at me. "If you lose to Leo Vance again, you'll be a laughingstock trending online, and you can forget about landing any good scripts. Leo Vance got an award nomination in his very first year in the industry, all thanks to director Lee's film. I started out as an extra and a stunt double, working my way up over the years to be known as a serious actor, but despite multiple nominations, I was always the runner-up. The trolls call me the almost best actor." I stared out the window at the endless stream of traffic. If I lost again, my career would be in serious jeopardy. Sarah, still fuming over the lost Dior deal, blurted out thoughtlessly, "Ethan, you were with Chloe too. Why didn't she ever go to these lengths for you?" I pulled my gaze from the window and looked at Sarah, silent for a moment. My voice was quiet. "Sarah, I was really in love with her. I wasn't her kept man, we were just in a relationship. That was all. But no one else saw it that way, because we were from different worlds. We were never equals from the start. Actually, Chloe had pulled strings for me before, but only once. It was for a major fashion campaign that every actor in the country was fighting for, and Sarah was working tirelessly trying to get the brand to notice me. But Chloe flew me to Europe on her private jet to attend an intimate dinner party with Dior's CEO, and I had the Asia-Pacific ambassadorship offer when we got back. I was quiet on the flight home, though. As the jet cruised through the stratosphere, Chloe knelt before me, cupping my face in her hands, a laugh of exasperation escaping her lips. "What are you sulking about?" I wasn't angry, I just didn't know what to say. "Chloe, these gifts are too much. Please, don't do this again." Chloe smiled and leaned in, our noses touching, her warm breath on my skin. "What is any of this compared to my heart? We're in love. What's wrong with me wanting to give you the world? My only fear is that it's not enough." Her touch was ticklish, and I bit my lip, leaving the question unasked. "What happens to all these things if one day you don't love me anymore? What happens when you give your heart to someone else?" Now, I had my answer. It didn't matter if she was the one who gave it to me. She would take it all back. The red carpet before the award ceremony is always a major spectacle. My time on the carpet wasn't even over when a commotion erupted behind me, and every camera instantly swiveled away from me. I turned to see who it was, and of course it was Leo Vance. But he wasn't alone. Chloe was with him, the two of them arriving together. Chloe always hated the spotlight, so I was surprised to see her walking the red carpet with him. Her eyes met mine for a fleeting moment before she looked away, busying herself with straightening Leo's tie. "What is it?" Leo asked. I heard her scoff softly. "It's nothing, just a nobody." During the announcement for Best Actor, the host had to call my name twice before I dazedly got to my feet. My scenes played on the giant screen as the crowd roared, and it was only in the moment I held the trophy that it sank in I had won. Chloe and Leo Vance were in the front row. Leo, having just lost, was pale with disappointment. Chloe kept her eyes down, ignoring him completely. It was as if she were listening intently to my acceptance speech. The speech was long, a list of names I had to thank. By the end, Chloe's name was not among them. The person who was once at the very top of that list had long been struck off by my own hand. The host was a well-known comedian. Trying to liven things up, he joked, "Ethan, the internet has dug up your whole life story. I read on Reddit that the theme song you recorded early in your career, Prayer, was named after the love of your life. Is that true?" I hadn't just sung that song, I had written the lyrics myself. I had selfishly hidden the name of the person I loved most in its title. I saw Chloe's head snap up from the audience, her expression one of utter disbelief. Very few people knew the Harrison heiress's name was Chloe, and that those close to her called her by a nickname that meant prayer. Only now, in this moment, did she realize that I had once loved her so deeply, so completely. I glanced at the panicked Leo Vance beside her and simply shook my head. I smiled as I denied it. That's all in the past now. Back in my seat after the award, my hands were trembling and my heart was pounding. I had to fight to keep the tears from falling. Before the festival, no one in the industry thought I had a chance. Everyone assumed Leo Vance would win for director Lee's film, so my win was a complete upset. Suddenly, a tissue was pressed into my hand, and a soft voice said, "The cameras aren't on you now, you can wipe your eyes." The person next to me was Isabella Reed, the acclaimed Oscar winner, a true prodigy and my co-star in the film that had just won me this award. If it hadn't been for Isabella's recommendation, the director never would have considered me for an audition, and if it weren't for her incredible performance, I never would have been able to lose myself in the role and deliver the performance of my life. But I hesitated for a moment before taking the tissue, my fingers curling slightly as I accepted it and murmured, "Thank you." Isabella didn't say anything more, just a soft hum of acknowledgement as she turned her gaze back to the stage, as coolly detached and unapproachable as her reputation suggested. It was as if, the night we wrapped filming, when she confessed her feelings to me on that moonlit beach, had never happened at all. The mood of my team as we left was the complete opposite of when we arrived. Sarah was beaming, all the earlier gloom completely gone. But just before I could get into the car, a few fans appeared out of nowhere and blocked my way. Security moved to usher them away, but I stopped them and signed an autograph for each of them. They were just young girls who had probably traveled a long way, and I didn't want them to leave disappointed. As I finished the last autograph, I heard a familiar voice call my name from behind me. The final stroke of my signature faltered. It was Chloe, standing a short distance away, calling out, "Ethan." I kept my eyes down, pretending not to hear. I smiled and said a few last words to the fans before my assistant helped me into the car with my things. The car pulled away, the window half open. I could see the smiling faces of my fans, and beyond them, Chloe, standing alone. All of her usual heiress's arrogance was gone. Her almond eyes, usually so full of life, were no longer smiling, just staring at me in a silent daze. The last time she'd said my name was the day we broke up. Back then, she had been furious, her eyes filled with bitter disappointment as she said, "Ethan, you say you love me, but why have I never once felt it?" Through the car window, I gave a distant wave to the fans and to Chloe, a calm smile on my face, like a final goodbye. The car drove on. "Go and find it, Chloe. If you want to, maybe you'll find the answers you're looking for in those faded memories. But it's all in the past now." Back at my apartment, I was busy reading a new script. My assistant, who lives on the internet, gasped and handed me her phone. "Ethan, your old romance is trending." All the trending topics tonight were about the film festival, and I was at the center of several of them. But the #1 spot was that Reddit thread dissecting my first love. It had become the top post on the site, titled, "The Oscar Winner and the Summer He Prayed For." That's where they figured out the meaning behind the song Prayer. I read through the entire long post, my lips pressed together, feeling a bit dazed. There were things in there I had forgotten myself. Years ago, while filming near Mount Rainier, I had apparently climbed to the summit just to hang a prayer charm for Chloe. A local news crew was there doing random interviews, asking people to send a message to the person they were praying for. I was wearing a mask, but I smiled and said, "Chloe, it's so cold up here." Of course, Chloe would never be watching a small local news channel, so she never knew how heavily it snowed on Mount Rainier that day. The post was surprisingly accurate, even digging up an old interview from when I was young and struggling. In it I was smiling, dreaming, "If I ever win an award, there's a certain young lady who will be the very first person I thank." The reporter pressed, "Who is she?" In the video, I just kept smiling, never answering the question. But tonight, the first person on my list of thanks was the director of my last film, for giving me the opportunity. It wasn't the person I had once promised. We had a messy breakup long ago. Our story had no happy ending. Everyone online could see the relationship was long over, but they were still getting emotional over our tragic story. People were guessing it was every actress I had ever worked with, but no one had a clue. Chloe's name never came up, and for that, I was relieved. Fans can take things too far, and besides, Chloe was with someone else now. The internet would forget all about it in a couple of days. After the win, scripts from major directors started pouring in, and Sarah and I were in the process of choosing the right one. There was some downtime before filming was set to begin on the project we chose, so Sarah booked me a guest spot as a judge on a popular acting competition show called The Actor's Craft. It was just for one episode, but I didn't expect to run into so many familiar faces. My recent co-star, the Oscar winner Isabella Reed, was also on the judging panel. When I got to the studio, I ran right into Leo Vance. I hadn't realized he was participating as a contestant. The producers certainly knew how to generate buzz, pitting the two recent Best Actor contenders against each other on a reality show. The only difference was that this time I was the judge, and he was the one being judged. The ratings were guaranteed to be huge. For once, Chloe wasn't there with him. I'd heard she was always doting on him, inspecting the safety of every set and his accommodations whenever he started a new project. The industry gossip was that Chloe was the most devoted girlfriend imaginable. It was hard to reconcile that image with the arrogant heiress I knew. Filming hadn't officially started yet. As I'd been in the industry much longer than him, I was technically his senior, so I gave him a polite, non-committal smile as we passed. But just as I was about to walk past, Leo Vance stopped me. "Ethan, I don't believe I congratulated you on your win." I stopped and turned back to face him. He stood there, a smirk playing on his lips. My girlfriend was so sure I was going to win. She made me memorize this long, elaborate speech thanking her. So childish of her. I watched him silently, waiting for what he would say next. His smile faded, the corners of his mouth turning down as he continued. "You probably don't know this, but my girlfriend is Chloe. She said that song you wrote, Prayer, is awful, and she wishes you'd stop trying to disgust her with it." I didn't get angry. After a moment's thought, I commented flatly, "You two are a good match. Her taste in men and your acting talent are equally terrible." Leo, who had had everything handed to him his whole life, had never been spoken to so bluntly, and he turned pale with rage. Without a famous director, a great script, and a massive budget, he never would have been nominated in the first place. I ignored him and walked away. As I rounded the corner, I saw someone was there, Isabella Reed, leaning against the wall with an unlit cigarette between her lips. The clear sunlight on her face only accentuated her cool, solitary aura. I never would have expected her to agree to do a show like this. She was a national treasure who famously avoided interviews and commercials, keeping an incredibly low profile. I pursed my lips and said her name, wondering how much of that she had overheard. "Isabella." She turned her head and gave a slight nod. She was probably just passing by and got caught in the middle of our confrontation, forced to wait it out to avoid the awkwardness. She tossed the unlit cigarette into a nearby trash can and spoke. "The producers are looking for us. We should go together." She wasn't one for small talk. Even after working closely together for 6 months on our last film, we never became particularly close. We walked side by side down the quiet hallway. Suddenly, the person beside me spoke. Isabella said, "Your ex-girlfriend really does have terrible taste. Most reality shows are scripted, and this one, despite its high-minded focus on the craft of acting, was no exception. The script had one unbreakable rule: Leo Vance had to make it to the finals." I wasn't surprised. Sarah had already told me that one of the Harrison family's companies was the main investor in the show. The producers had instructed all the judges to go easy on Leo Vance in our critiques. But Leo had bad luck. In the first round, he was paired against a phenomenally talented child actor, and without a famous director guiding his every move, his lack of skill was painfully obvious. But it didn't matter, the judges were there to cover for him. The average viewer is just watching for entertainment. As long as the judges praised him, the audience would believe he was good, even if his performance was a little lacking. The other judges gave him some generic, formulaic praise, and Leo stood on stage, beaming with satisfaction. "Thank you for the encouragement. I'll continue to work hard." The young actor beside him stood silently, his fists clenched at his sides. But some people are just born to have an easier path, even if that smooth path is built on the unfairness of others. Then it was Isabella's turn to speak. She didn't even look up, and the director had to prompt her. Isabella finally spoke, her voice laced with impatience. It's painful to watch. I have no comment. It was brutally direct. Isabella's standing in the industry was so high that her every word carried immense weight. Those few words hit him like a physical blow, and Leo stood there stunned, as large tears began to well up in his eyes. The consequence of Leo's tears was that Chloe herself showed up at the studio that afternoon. As soon as the assistants and makeup artists heard the Heiress was on set, they all ran out to catch the drama. Chloe rarely made public appearances, but rumors of her stunning beauty, said to outshine any actress, were legendary, so of course they were curious. I was alone in my dressing room, reading the script for my next movie and making notes in the margins. The silence around me felt strange, and when I finally looked up from my script, I saw that the door to my dressing room was open. Chloe was leaning against the doorframe, her eyes on me. I had no idea how long she'd been standing there. The afternoon sun cast a warm, hazy glow through the open doorway. I had run into Chloe a few times since our breakup, and each time she had been cold and confrontational, but this time, she was just quiet, calm. The last time we had been this peaceful around each other was a very long time ago. I was taken aback for a moment, then pointed down the hall. Leo Vance's dressing room is around the corner at the end of the hall. Chloe ignored me and said my name. Ethan, I saw the post online. She looked up at me. Did you really? Her voice caught in her throat, betraying a flicker of genuine emotion. She was nowhere near as calm as she was pretending to be. She couldn't finish the sentence. But I knew what she wanted to ask. She wanted to ask if it was true, if I had once loved her so silently, yet so fiercely. I saw her hand gripping the doorframe, her knuckles white. With her long hair falling around her face, she looked like a drowning woman, waiting for me to throw her a lifeline. I heard myself speak. I said, no. I closed my script and forced a smile. I saw that post. It's all just baseless speculation. None of it is true. People on the internet love to overanalyze things. You and Leo shouldn't pay it any mind. I'm sorry if it caused you any trouble. She straightened up abruptly, her lips a thin, hard line. I thought she was about to leave, but then I remembered what had happened that morning. I felt compelled to give her some sincere advice. Acting is a lifelong pursuit. If you really want Leo to have a long career, you can't keep coddling him. You need to let him stand on his own 2 feet and learn for himself. I don't know which of my words set her off, but she slammed the door and kicked the leg of the nearest vanity. The table crashed to the floor, sending the mirror and cosmetics shattering everywhere. Chloe whirled around to face me, her eyes red with fury. Ethan, I let you go it alone once. And what happened? You almost died. Do you even have a heart? In the 3 years we were together, Chloe had only been truly angry with me twice. The first was when I was playing a supporting role in a period piece. I fell from a horse during a scene and was dragged for several feet. Thankfully, it wasn't serious, and I was out of the hospital in a couple of weeks. But Chloe was furious. She shut down the entire production for as long as I was hospitalized. I told her she was overreacting. A cold smirk played on her lips as she peeled an apple by my bedside. They're bullying you because you don't have any connections. They let you get hurt and tried to sweep it under the rug. When you're recovered, I'll have the director and producer come to you and apologize personally. She asked, couldn't you have used a stunt double? Couldn't you have just told them you were my boyfriend? Am I that embarrassing to you? I shook my head to all of it, and finally, she relented, her eyes softening. Then just, don't do scenes like that anymore, Ethan. It scares me. Back then, almost no one knew that Chloe and I were together. I grew up in the foster care system, never went to college, and spent years working as an extra and stunt double in Hollywood. We were from 2 completely different worlds. I worked tirelessly, honing my craft, hoping that one day I could win that Best Actor award. And then, during my acceptance speech, I could finally, proudly, tell the whole world that she was my girl. And then I finally got my chance. The lead role in director Lee's new film, it was a character I was born to play, with a world-class production team behind it. After I landed the role, I gained 20 pounds, then had to lose it all again when the shooting schedule changed. I cleared my calendar for an entire year for that film. We were a month into filming when there was another accident during a stunt scene high off the ground. A mistake by the props department, a frayed wire, I fell, and there was a steel rebar sticking out of the ground right below me. If I hadn't managed to twist away at the last second, I would have been killed instantly. As it was, the rebar pierced my shoulder, and I passed out from the pain. It was far more serious than the fall from the horse. Chloe was in Australia on business at the time. She was supposed to be there for months. I didn't tell her about the accident. I just needed to finish this film. I knew it would win me the award, and then I would finally feel like I was worthy of standing beside her. Just one more film and everything would be easier. But she found out. I was almost ready to be discharged from the hospital. The wound, which had been deep enough to see bone, was finally starting to heal over. She showed up looking exhausted from travel, her face grim. She silently read through my medical chart, her lips pressed into a hard, thin line. When she saw the photos of the initial injury, she gasped and crumpled them in her fist. She was radiating a cold fury as she looked at me. If I hadn't come back early, were you just going to hide this from me forever? Her eyes were wide with a mixture of fury and utter disappointment. Ethan, you say you love me, but tell me, why have I never once felt it? She slammed the door and walked out. I tried to follow her, but I stumbled and fell in the busy hospital corridor, and she never looked back. Chloe broke up with me. Director Lee's film was put on hold because of my injury, and when production finally resumed 2 years later, the lead role had been given to her new boyfriend, Leo Vance. But there was a question I wanted to ask her that day, too. Chloe, you say you love me, but you only love the idea of me. You never cared what I wrote on that prayer charm on Mount Rainier. You never asked why winning that award meant so much to me. You could never understand why I refused to use your connections. Your life is so full, so grand. I was just a shipwreck in the vast ocean of your life. The crash in my dressing room drew attention, and the first person to arrive was Isabella Reed. Isabella frowned at the mess of broken glass on the floor, then stepped in front of me, placing herself between me and Chloe in a protective stance. She glanced over her shoulder at Chloe and said, "What is your problem?" A crowd was gathering at the door, and in the distance, I could hear someone calling for Leo Vance. Chloe's angry question hung in the air, unanswered. She straightened up, her gaze shifting between me and Isabella. Then she let out a scornful laugh, pushed her way through the crowd, and was gone. The crowd at the door lingered, staring at the wreckage inside. Isabella stood up and closed the door, shutting out the prying eyes. The noise faded away. She found some cotton swabs and antiseptic wipes and knelt to tend to my hand. It was only then that I noticed a thin line of blood where a piece of flying glass had cut me. I tried to pull my hand away, but she gently held my fingers. Isabella looked up at me. I'm not in character anymore. In the film we made together, Isabella's character was deeply in love with mine. Madly, obsessively in love. And I was playing her love interest. It's common for actors on long shoots to blur the lines between themselves and their characters, to get lost in the role. That's why, on the day I wrapped, when Isabella confessed her feelings to me on that beach, I had assumed she was just still in character, transferring her character's feelings onto me. She was a loner, almost reclusive, and I'm not exactly a social butterfly myself. We never got particularly close during the entire shoot. The only thing we really had in common was our passion for acting. That's how I had rejected her. Isabella, you're just not out of character yet. But now, in this chaotic dressing room, she was kneeling in front of me, looking up, the sunlight catching in her long, dark hair. Isabella smiled. I'm out of character now. And even when I'm perfectly clear-headed, I still like you. The taping of The Actor's Craft continued. After Chloe's visit to support him, Leo's arrogance grew tenfold. He started verbally berating the other contestants and demanded retakes whenever he felt he hadn't performed well, which was often, and the production team always obliged. I overheard the other young actors more than once, cursing him behind his back, calling him a diva who was only there because of his connections. But I didn't expect that after his second performance, Leo would turn his attention to me. He stood on stage, a smug smile on his face as he looked at me on the judges' panel. You know, the original lead in director Lee's film The Light was actually Ethan. It's so boring for us contestants to just be reenacting scenes. Why don't you show us how it's done? Ethan, improvise my big scene from the film, give us all a masterclass. He stared directly at me, the sharp arrogance of his newfound fame on full display. In that moment, I finally understood why Leo had agreed to do this show. He had been nominated for his very first role, A Meteoric Rise, but he had still lost the award to me. He was a sore loser. There was already speculation online that if I had been the one to star in The Light, it would have been an even bigger international success. Leo was bitter, and he wanted to use this show to force me to perform a scene from the film, to prove he was better. I looked at him for a long moment, and then, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I leaned back in my chair and said, all right, not being able to finish that film had always been my biggest regret, and now I finally had a chance to let it go. Isabella agreed to be my scene partner. We spent an hour offstage preparing, running lines, and when we took the stage, the lights and set were ready. The main character in The Light is a blind man, and I had spent 6 months immersing myself in the psychology of the role. I saw the film as soon as it came out, and as I watched, I couldn't help but imagine how I would have played each scene. The moment the director called action, I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I was no longer myself. I was the blind man, my eyes vacant and unseeing. Isabella was a phenomenal, instinctive actress, but in that scene, I completely dominated the stage. No one knew how much of myself I had poured into that role. Years of regret and what-ifs culminated in that one, cathartic, improvised performance. When the scene ended, the entire studio was silent. Leo Vance was pale as a ghost, barely able to stand. It was a performance that surpassed the original film. Compared to his performance, there was no contest. It took me a long moment to come back to myself, and when I did, I saw someone in the audience, sitting in the very back, almost completely hidden in the shadows. It was Chloe. The stage lights were so bright they made her eyes water, or maybe it was the memories, sharp as a knife, twisting in her gut. She was trying so hard to hold back her emotions that the veins in her slender neck stood out. In that moment, her pain was palpable. She finally understood what that film had meant to me, and she was the one who had taken it away. After that first episode was filmed, my time on the show was over. But just as I got home, ready to relax, the scandal broke. Leaked behind-the-scenes footage from The Actor's Craft went viral online, making the show a massive hit before it even premiered. Someone had leaked a video of Leo crying on stage after his first performance was criticized. The video was edited to make me look cold and cruel on the judges' panel. Then, someone else posted a photo, claiming that the Harrison heiress had come to visit her boyfriend on set, only to be hit on by a certain Oscar-winning actor. The story claimed she had flown into a rage and trashed the actor's dressing room. They didn't use my name, but I was the only Oscar winner on the show. To make matters worse, Leo himself posted on social media, "Workplace bullying, trying to steal someone's girlfriend, have some shame." He deleted it a minute later, but the damage was done. It caused a massive uproar online. All signs pointed directly at me. The show's producers should have stepped in to clarify things, but they stayed silent, enjoying the free publicity from the controversy. Sarah had to call the director several times before he finally picked up. The director was evasive. "We're rushing to get the episode out. Everyone will see the truth then. If we clarify now, it'll spoil the show's drama. Just hang in there. Ethan, this is just part of being a public figure." He was just stalling, refusing to take a clear stance. Sarah hung up the phone, her expression dark. "That's not even the worst part. I'm afraid they're re-editing the episode right now to fit the narrative that you bullied Leo. We never should have taken this job. If I had known that little drama queen was going to be on it, I would have never agreed, no matter what they paid." Leo had a reputation as the heiress's boyfriend and a Nepo baby, and while he had plenty of haters, he also had a very large and loyal fan base. I said, "Find out who filmed that footage and how it got leaked. Send cease and desist letters to the biggest accounts spreading the rumors, and trace the bot farms back to their source. Let's just do what we can for now." As everyone else got busy, I walked over to the window. It was evening, that time photographers call the blue hour. The sky was a deep, pure blue, and far below, the city traffic flowed like a river of light. Suddenly, my phone rang. A low, hoarse female voice on the other end said, "Look at the horizon." I looked up, and against the vast night sky, fireworks began to bloom. A fleeting moment of eternity. They fell like falling stars against the deep blue canvas of the night. All across the city, people were looking up at the sky. I could hear Chloe on the other end of the line, her voice thick with unshed tears. She said, "I'm keeping my promise. Ethan, congratulations. Ethan, I'm so sorry. If our meeting when we were young was fate, was it a blessing or a curse?" One year, I told Chloe, "I'm going to win the Oscar, and you can be the woman behind the Oscar winner." She had leaned against my shoulder and laughed. "When you do, I'll light up the whole city with fireworks for you." A city of fireworks. It was beautiful. I was seeing it now, but where was the person who made the promise? I went up to the rooftop of the office building, and Chloe was there, waiting for me. The wind on the roof was so strong it was hard to keep my eyes open. An empty beer can rolled to my feet, clattering against the concrete. I picked it up and placed it next to the others by Chloe's side. There was already a small collection of them. I had no idea how many she'd had. She didn't turn around, her lips pressed into a thin, pale line. The wind almost drowned out the tremor in her voice. "I'm sorry about what happened with Leo and the show. I made him delete the post. You don't have to worry, I'll take care of everything." In her world, this was a small problem easily solved. The wind whipped around us, and for a moment, I was at a loss for words. After a long silence, I said, My team and I will handle it. This doesn't really have anything to do with you, and getting you involved will only make it more complicated. Besides, Leo is your boyfriend. Chloe took a long drink from her beer, her eyes downcast. He's not. Leo and I had a contract. For 1 year, 2 at most, I would give him any resource he wanted. He could even use my name, pretend to be my boyfriend, I didn't care. I only had one condition. He had to win the Best Actor award as a complete newcomer. A self-mocking smile touched her lips. I spent 2 years trying to prove a point, that if you hadn't been so stubborn, if you had just let me help you, you could have had it all so much easier. I was waiting for you to realize your mistake, waiting for you to come back. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't manage even a smile. Chloe continued, after we broke up, I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, thinking I heard the phone ring, realizing I was still waiting for you to call. You could have said anything, just my name would have been enough. If you had just said Chloe, I would have come running back. It turns out I was the one who was regretting everything, the one who was heartbroken. You were right, Ethan, I'm so arrogant. I never once understood what it was you truly wanted. It was only then that she finally looked up at me. With her eyes downcast, she could maintain a semblance of composure, but the moment our eyes met, it all came flooding out. Her face was streaked with tears, her expression utterly broken. Chloe said, I'm sorry. Under the vast, dark sky, a light snow began to fall, the first snow of the year, arriving so early. Her voice was so hoarse she could barely speak, and there was a pleading note in it. After the awards, I went home and I listened to prayer all night. I read that whole Reddit thread. Ethan, did you really love me once? I brushed a snowflake from my cheek, and as it melted, it felt just like a tear. Yes, and now, I said softly, Chloe, that's all in the past now. She had her answer. I saw her sway on her feet, and she opened the fist she had been clenching. In her palm was a ring. Ethan, this is yours. I don't think I ever told you when I came back from Australia that time, it was because I had finally convinced my family. I was coming back to ask you to marry me, but I was in the hospital, and she had to find out from someone else that I had almost died. We were so at odds when we were young, and now we were both just sorry. I gently closed her fingers over the ring. Her hand was trembling. Chloe, I said, I have never regretted meeting you. I didn't take the ring, and as I left, the snow was still falling on the rooftop. Chloe remained standing there alone, the wind whipping at her coat. She didn't move for a long, long time. By the time I got back, things had taken a dramatic turn. The controversy was still brewing, mostly fueled by Leo's fans. The general public hadn't really weighed in yet. First, Isabella Reed, who famously never uses social media, posted a single, 2-word message, baseless rumors. She attached a new, unedited clip from the show, showing the moment she, from the judges panel, had impatiently said, "It's painful to watch, I have no comment," immediately followed by Leo bursting into tears. Isabella's influence was immense, and netizens joked that it was the most self-destructive clarification ever. Surprisingly, public opinion didn't immediately side with Leo. Sarah hadn't even had time to launch our own PR campaign. The comments online were brutal. Is Leo Vance for real? Does he think anyone actually wants his boyfriend? Someone needs to read the legendary Reddit thread about Ethan's tragic first love. I'm still not over it. How could Ethan possibly be? Even if the video is real, so what? An Oscar winner gave you some criticism. You should be grateful for the free lesson, you Nepo baby. Stop being so dramatic. What's with the post and delete? Next time, just slap yourself in the face instead. After they were done with Leo, the online mob turned on the show's producers, accusing them of being complicit, and the director's personal social media accounts were flooded with angry comments. The director had to get out of bed in the middle of the night to do a live apology, and he urgently contacted the streaming platform to rush the release of the full, unedited episode the very next day. They aired the original cut. They didn't dare to edit it maliciously. It showed everything as it happened. They didn't even try to hide Leo's on-set tantrums. The scene at the end of the episode, my improvised performance with Isabella, became a viral sensation, pushing the show's ratings to a new high. Director Lee, the director of The Light, called me. After a long silence, he said, "Ethan, not being able to finish the film with you was the biggest mistake of my career." When a reporter asked Chloe about Leo's accusations that I had tried to come between them, she just laughed scornfully. What relationship? There was nothing to come between. The contract expired. Then, probably fed up with it all, she posted the actual contract she had with Leo. It became the biggest scandal of the year, and for a long time after, people online were still speculating about why she had been so desperate to manufacture a new Oscar winner. In the fallout, Everyone Leo had wronged over the past 2 years, all the actors whose roles he had stolen, came forward with stories of his unprofessional behavior and on-set tantrums. He lost almost all of his endorsement deals within days, and the resulting breach of contract fees forced him to take a long hiatus from acting. Sarah was thrilled with the outcome. She had been prepared for a long and expensive PR battle, but it turned out my public goodwill was stronger than she thought. It saved us a fortune. Perhaps it's because when you've had to fight for every step, you're better at weathering the storm. I started work on a new film. Coincidentally, my co-star was once again Isabella Reed. I was beginning to understand that she was different with me than she was with everyone else. She was quiet with everyone, but with others it was a cold, distant quiet. With me it was a calm, peaceful quiet, like the surface of the ocean under the moon. Calm on the surface, but with turbulent depths below. After another day of shooting wrapped, I took a walk through the old town we were filming in. The moon was so bright it looked like it was coated in frost. I got a call from Chloe. I could hear the wind howling on her end of the line, and the faint sound of falling snow. She said, "Ethan, it's so cold on Mount Rainier." All those years ago, when I had secretly climbed to the top of that snowy mountain and hung a prayer charm for her. On it I had written, "May Chloe be safe and happy always." Back then, she hadn't known, hadn't understood. And now she was chasing those faded memories, trying to relive the 3 years of my life that I had devoted to loving her. But it was too late. That love was gone. It would never come back. I didn't say anything. I just hung up the phone and started walking back the way I came. At the end of the path, I saw Isabella. She was bathed in moonlight. "Let's walk back together," she said. I said, "Okay." A painful chapter of my life was being covered by the first snow of the year. Maybe it was time for me to start a new summer.